Hello everybody, Buddy with Midland, Texas. What I'm showing you here is a picture of me and the ex-wife, the late Cindy Barton, from Hobbs, New Mexico. We were married in South Lake Tahoe, 1994, married for 7 years. In 2018, after we were divorced, long time after we were divorced, we're on Facebook, and here I'm telling her, so did you get up in the attic or not? It's proven you were in my home. And then she says, I don't know anybody wants to kill you. That's ridiculous. Then she says, I never got in the freaking attic. I'm going to explain to you what I believe that means, okay? And it's actually really important. Right after that happened, Cindy died. She went to the hospital, not feeling well, and never returned. That's another suspicious death. Okay. Here's the story. After I survived the murder attempt and returned from the hospital, my dad told me that people were saying that I believed there were people in the attic of my Hobbs home, insinuating that I was crazy. That home was at 7611 Rolling Meadows. That's where me and Cindy lived. I was offended because that thought had never entered my mind, but I was sure that I had people in the attic of my Midland home. Over time, I started hearing about other homeowners reporting people in the attic, and it was a lot of them. It's now known that these crimes are happening all over the country, and they've been hidden from the public by our police and press. I've suspected it's connected with human trafficking. There was an incident back in 2002 when my young daughter, Jordan, the youngest daughter, told me about a light being on in the attic of that Hobbs home. You could see this from the living room where there was a small hole that allowed the light to come in. We had just painted the week before, so I knew that light wasn't on then, and I hadn't been in the attic. I had a pile of stuff to take up there stacked in the garage. Around the same time, Cindy Barton had moved out. That's the woman I showed you a picture of I was married to. We had been married for 7 years and was going through a divorce at the time. I assumed that Cindy had sneaked into my home, and for whatever reason, she had gotten up in the attic. A few months later, I came home from work and I saw a message on my answer machine, and the lady on the phone was asking for Cindy. And then at the end of the call, you could hear Cindy pick up the phone and say, hello. This was time-stamped, so I'm sure that she was in my home. I called the Lee County Sheriff's Office, and the deputy came out and told me that he wouldn't file a report since this was a civil matter. I then asked him, does this mean that I can go break into her home? And he got mad and said, I didn't say that. I figured out that she had an extra garage door opener made, which allowed her to park in the garage and come into the house while I was at work. My attorney sent her attorney a registered mail advising them that if she does this again, then we're pressing charges. With this proof, I was sure that Cindy had been in the attic of my Hobbs home, and I forgot about it. Okay. Fast forward 10 years, and I'm shot with the phone lines cut in my Midland home with burglar alarms going off in the attic. I'd been reporting people in the attic for over a year. Okay, the thought that the same crimes that have been going on in my Midland home were also going on in my Hobbs home had never entered my mind, but now I'm sure of it. In 2018, I was on Facebook, and Cindy called me crazy. I told her that I knew she was in the Hobbs home, but I want to know if she was in the attic. She said, I never got in the freaking attic. After telling me this, Cindy goes to the hospital and never returns. She died, and I'm convinced that she knew what was going on. I wonder if somebody at the hospital didn't take her out because of it. Since Cindy wasn't in the freaking attic, then that means somebody else was. This told me that my Hobbs home was one of the many other homes that are rigged across the country, and these same crimes have been committed against me since 1992. Let that sink in. Over 30 years of daily crimes and theft. My Hobbs home and the one to the south of it had been built by my first in-laws, Ann and Don Calloway. They are the grandparents of my son, Josh. I'm convinced there's a tunnel between them, and they're the ones who rigged that home. The realtor that found that home for me was the late Mike Burns, who was married to Tammy Calloway, my first ex-wife, the daughter of Ann and Don. That explains why Tammy hasn't supported me after I shot with burglar alarms going off in my attic. She's known all along. And see, I always considered Tammy my friend. The month before the murder attempt on my life, my mom died in Hobbs, New Mexico with still unanswered questions. And a few weeks later, Don Calloway died, the builder of my Hobbs home. And then after I survived this premeditated murder attempt, just a couple of weeks after that, my dad married Ann Calloway, and they quit talking to me. I was invited to my dad's wedding, and Ann told me it was because she didn't want an insane person there. Of course, now I have proof showing that I wasn't shot with my gun. I have proof of more than 50 other homeowners reporting people in the attic, and I've documented multiple people saying that tunnels underground and homes are here, along with a map showing that one of those is in my backyard. That's where the oil show parties were going on. There's no way that I could send my son's grandma to prison, but it would be nice if she would tell the truth so I could get the crime stopped against me now that I'm crippled for life and without a job and my name smeared. I believe the reason that I haven't had the support of my family is because they've known about these crimes being committed against me for many years. Maybe they were making money off of it. Anyway, now you can understand why that's important, what Cindy told me before she died. I'm going to show you some comments here. Okay. Here's my living room of my Hobbs home, and that crack where that beam was where the light was coming through. That's what Jordan was in the living room watching TV and saw that, light. There's light on in the attic, Not me that said it. It was Jordan that said it, okay? Here is the, the map picture, and this home where I lived in Hobbs on 76 Rolling Meadows, and this one right here next to it, was both built by Ann and Don Kelly, my first in-laws. They used to live in this home, and I lived in this home for 16 years, okay? I never did I suspect anybody's in the attic. Now I'm sure of it, okay? And then here, my mom, she died here December 7, 2011, the month before I'm shot with my phone lines cut, and Don Calloway dies here on January 5th, 2012, and then I'm shot just a couple weeks later on January 28th. And what's weird is Ann Calloway goes and marries my dad, and I'm not invited. Here's my brother right there. So this is a picture from the wedding. And here's what Ann Calloway wrote me. She says, "My name is Calloway, and VJ Calloway will not appreciate these accusations you're throwing around. I advise you, big boy, you better be making some back statements, PDQ. See you, by the way. I didn't want you at my wedding. That's the main reason you were not invited. It was one of the happiest occasions of my life, and I didn't want some malicious, insane person around." Okay, the guy that's a crippled crime victim, reporting people in the attic, now documented homeowners all over the country reporting people in the attic. She's the one that built my Hobbs home. Okay, remember, my daughter recognized the light was on in the attic. Okay, and then my dad died in 2017 right here. Okay, and I talked to him one time in the last 3 years of life, not because of me, because he quit talking to me, and here I'm the crippled survivor of a murder attempt, living under the threat of death, And sad deal here. I've suspected, I love my dad to death, I suspected he was protecting somebody, And then this is always important here. I've now documented over 50 other homeowners reporting people in the attic. What's it going to take? 60, 70, 80, 100? I mean, come on, let's get real. I mean, how stupid can you be to pretend this is not going on all over the country? And these are just the ones that I happen to find out about, Here, let me play.
Smells cigarette smoke.
Okay.
That woman is facing charges after police say she burned down her home to get rid of someone who she claimed was in the attic.
That was at Carlsbad. Dad worked over in Carlsbad.
Here's someone up in the attic. She smells cigarette smoke. She took her family. They're going to be waiting out front.
316 Geneva. Caller stating that he heard someone in the attic.
610 Jeter. Complaint is going to be a 7-year-old male. Stated he can hear yelling and fighting. His mother in the attic. He can hear her being assaulted.
$10.96. They called this lady crazy. Police had been over there yet. That's what they're doing to all the crime victims. There's some addresses, and there's many more that, even recently people tell me about it. This Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.